Call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. And that brings us to public comments. Anyone here have anything they'd like to talk about? Going once, twice? Okay, brings us to approval of the agenda for the March 9 meeting. So moved, okay. Second. All in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved, or the agenda is approved rather. Now we have the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes. So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. It's approved. Now we're old business revolving loan fund implementation update.
Yes, we have David DeVelder is here with IFF. We'll be sharing the report. I think that was sent to you in advance of the meeting for your review, and Dave, feel free to step up to the table. Thanks for being here.
So, yeah, thanks for having me. So I did send the pipeline, and we added a couple columns to it just to make it more consistent with what we're providing to other counties. For some reason, our reporting is slightly different in Ottawa County, but we'll just use this going forward. It's adding the borrower and then a description of what the project is to make it a little bit more helpful. And then before we move on, I sent Paul some notes as well about things that we want to think about going forward to increase just awareness and more conversation with community about the revolving loan fund. As far as status, Spring Lake is done. And then Magnus is also almost done. I think they're already leasing up. There's I think 2 buildings there. They're already leasing up one of the buildings. The other building I'm sure will be done very soon. Here this first or second quarter. And then Lakewood Apartments is also probably nearing completion. I don't know when that's going to start leasing up. So a good amount of units in Holland. I mean, we're talking, I think 202 at Magnus, and Lakewood has 190. So nearly 400 units. That's going to have a pretty big impact on Holland. So we're excited about that. Magnus has been, we actually work with Magnus all over the Midwest, and they, really do a great job of the workforce housing model with a ton of amenities, and they start to incorporate childcare in their projects as well, which is really neat. Town Park just started construction. That's 2 sites, one in downtown Holland and one on Collin Park. That's a joint venture with Dwelling Place, the primary developer, but then Community Action House or Community. I always forget the name.
I think it's Action House.
Community Action House of Holland provided some land along with the city of Holland for the Collin Park site. Hope Reformed Church provided the site downtown, and it's 2 separate apartment buildings with, I believe there's a community room at each location and some wraparound services that Dwelling Place provides to all the residents across their footprint. And the Native American, well, I can't remember that name, which one it is. I think it's whatever the one is north of us is partnered on the one in Holland. And so there's reserved units. It'd be the same one that partnered on the Spring Lake one. It's not Gunlight, but it's the one north. Is it Turtle Creek? Whoever has that one. I can't remember the name. I can get back to you on that, but there's, I think there's 9 units at the reserved for the one in Holland. So those units have to be rented to people with a Native American ethnicity. And then Dwelling Place has 2 other sites, one in Holland that's actually on the same site as the Collin Park site. There'll be 5 or 6, looks like 5 townhomes there. Those will be community land trust, permanently affordable home ownership, shared equity. And then also in Grand Haven, there is 5, 6 units. I can't read that. Yep. And that would be the same concept, community land trust. Those are duplexes. So both of those community land trust sites are attached, single family, shared equity, homeownership. So that would be our first homeownership. Those do look like they're, moving forward this year. So then I was approached by, Artemis Group, which is Casey Young and Derek Kopes. They do missing metal workforce housing around the state of Michigan. We worked with them on a pretty large rental project up in Bel Air, Michigan. And they have one project under construction in Ferrisburg. They did have a TIF on it. Unfortunately, they had approached us about using a revolving loan fund. I'm not sure what happened, but they decided not to use us. I don't know if there was, I mean, we were available, we were open, and then when I talked to Curtis Moran as their builder, when I talked to Curtis about a week ago, he said they had already moved forward with Ferrisburg. That one in Ferrisburg does have affordability. I think it's 15% under 120 AMI. So that project is out there, where they just didn't use the revolving loan fund. And then Unica is another site of theirs that has the potential for affordability. The problem is Unica, Crockery Township is not willing to do a TIF as of right now. So if they were, then we could do, we could finance the whole project, which would lower, you know, the interest carry for the developer, as well as we could do a TIF, TIF loan. If the developer wanted to do that, which they probably would, just to increase their margin on the project, to make the numbers work, to provide affordability below. For Crockery, they would be going after 100% AMI or less. Those are duplexes as well. And full home ownership. They're also willing to do rental, which I thought was interesting. The issue is no TIF, so we approached Grand Haven Community Foundation through one of the board members that's an investor of IFF Northern Trust. We had been talking to them a couple of weeks ago because they wanted to understand what the pipeline was, because they have a $2.5 million investment into the revolving loan fund for Ottawa County. We had placed part of that money into Samaritas project. They really want their investment to go into Grand Haven. So the idea is to approach them on the Utica property to see what they're willing to do. It would probably have to be grant dollars at about $100,000 a unit to make those affordable to somebody under 100% AMI. So stay tuned on that. If anything else comes up with pipeline, I'll certainly let you guys know right away in the next report as well. And then I had some more notes. That's kind of a collaboration of conversation when I met with Paul last week, and then Curtis Moran also had some comments about ways to utilize the fund and support projects. So one idea is to do a housing summit, just to continue on the same path as when Ryan Kilpatrick did the presentation a couple months ago, but this would be more directed, a little bit smaller group and more directed toward ways to connect the dots between developers, realtors, and municipalities, just to have a deeper conversation around those municipalities that are interested in incorporating affordability and supporting their community with workforce housing and low income housing. Predominantly, I would say the focus would be homeownership, just because we have done quite a bit of rental already. We'd certainly be open to doing rental again. And you know, really, it's always a conversation between the developer and the municipality, and if there's any incentives, you know, that has to, you know, the focus has to be discussed. It's not something that IFF can dictate. It's really between the developer and the municipality and the community and community studies. And then we talked about looking for county-owned property that could potentially be developed. If the land can be available at a lower cost or no cost, that's a subsidy. I mean, that's something that can make or break a project for affordability. And we would want, in that case, the Ottawa County or some type of incentive to restrict the affordability. IFF is not in a position to dictate that. We'll certainly support whatever is brought forward, as long as it guarantees a 20% affordability for our contract with Ottawa County, which would be I believe it's 10 years. Most of our permanent loans for like our rental are 17 years, so as long as they have a loan with IFF, that would have to be continued unless they paid their, past the 10 years, unless they paid their loan off. For home ownership, it's really the first buyer, but then if there's a TIF, what does the TIF agreement say as far as reporting? The one in Kent County, I know with TIF says first homeowner. But we'd have to look at that, and I'm not sure what, we haven't done any TIFs yet, but we are about to, so we should be thinking about that as far as what did the contract say, and if it didn't say anything. If the Ottawa County wanted to restrict for the resale, I guess I will say with a community land trust, those have to be sold affordably forever. So it really wouldn't be a CLT, it'd be more like the Nunica. How that would all shake out, I guess we can see what happens. And then IFF's been engaging with parks districts, so Kent County Parks, Ottawa County, Muskegon County. Just ways to be creative around developing housing, not only on corridors, but also near parks to increase walkability corridors, just health and demand, desirability. Always is around open space, and so anytime we can look at properties near parks, and there seems to be some interest in looking at that, and then combining that with incentives in those municipalities like the TIF. And then the last item was about looking to lenders, our employers and school systems around down payment assistance for homeownership. Kurt Moran said that Holland is doing something with down payment assistance with public schools already.
They are.
That was something that he was really excited about, so we really need to have a good idea of what is available and ways to increase that option. Most of our lenders have down payment assistance, but it can only be used if the home buyer asks for it, right? So that money is just sitting there. I don't know how much of it's being used. I know LMCU has a good program. Most of the lenders have great programs for first-time home ownership. It's just connecting those dots and making sure that home buyers are tapping into that. They can do that with any house they buy, but it's more critical as far as scaling new housing to connect those dots to make sure that we can, reach families with affordability. And I would say the reason why the school system is doing it so that they have families for their school system. So, we've had a lot of success with that in Kent County, but we have more resources in Kent County. But I do think down payment is a huge issue, and it's always an obstacle for families. And then probably at the summit, we would want to invite the foundations just to hear from them what their interests are with their investments. And they've already invested in the fund, so we want to hear from them what their main priorities are. I'm sure homeownership would be at the top of the list, but what other things around health outcomes and education and family wellness and so forth can we do to to help use the dollars they've given us in the best ways possible. That's all I have. David, you have questions?
Can I offer some anecdotal information from the real estate side of things? From a seller point of view, if there's an offer that has down payment assistance and an offer that doesn't, there's more hoops to jump through for a down payment assistance. The seller will always, I don't want to say always, I would probably say 95% of the time pick one that doesn't have down payment assistance. So in most times, the folks that are using down payment assistance are using it on an offer on a highly sought after affordable house. So there's going to be way more competition.
Yeah.
So that's probably why you're seeing it more in Kent County than you are in Ottawa County. From a real estate side of things, on the seller side, you have a 30-day close, or you usually have a 45-day close if you haven't finished a down payment assistance. So that's part of why they don't get utilized a whole lot.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We've actually looked at the data in Kent County and I'm a realtor as well. And we have another realtor in here too, and you know, most of what's happened in Kent County are all conventional or cash buyers. You know, we pretty much left the FHA buyer in the dust. I believe that the data was about 5% of our buyers are FHA in Kent County. So I guess that's really focus of the summit and sharing of information to really tell the story, because I'm sure it's worse in Ottawa County. I mean, I don't know what the data is, but it's probably good to get the data from the Realtors Association. I'm sure GRAR could produce that for us. And maybe we can work together to get that information, but you know, the nice thing about new housing is dwelling place has criteria that is going to seek out those buyers. And so those are gonna be not necessarily open market, certainly they'll be marketed on the MLS most likely, but at least there will be with dwelling places, you know, for example, we have a home buyer selection sheet that they use as a guide. That was actually something I put together when I worked there as my last employer. And that helps kind of, you know, prioritize a buyer pool. Certainly, I think with a lot of these, they try to focus on a certain amount under 80% of the median and a certain amount under 120. And that's really mostly just because it's the only way we can make this, the capital stack work. Otherwise, we try to serve as low income as possible. But the reality is we really can't even serve someone under 60% of the median just because the numbers just typically don't work. People don't make enough. But certainly under that 80, we can do a good job, and that's, you know, maybe firefighter, school teacher, certainly when you get into that workforce, that 80 to 120, you're starting to hit just regular average working professionals and people in you know, manual jobs, construction. You know, really the way that it often works is for a family, a household of one, you can just say, if they're making $100,000 a year, that's 100% AMI. I mean, certainly as you have larger family size, those numbers go up. But that's what we often say is like, if it's 120 AMI, just think of an individual making up to 120,000. And Ottawa, I think, has one of the higher income brackets. So in a way, that's a good thing because we're able to serve more people within that restriction. We're really just talking about middle income individuals, and then those under 80s would be more low and moderate. I don't think we're really able to serve our low income families with homeownership. It would be our rental opportunities for that, which we have plenty of that under construction. So that's, you know, that's a good thing. I wish we could do more of that in Ottawa County. I just don't think it's possible unless we could get into manufactured housing, modular housing,
Or
different rezoning, different zoning. You know, we financed some mobile home parks in West Michigan, and that's a potential homeownership. Now we have the cross mod, which I know we talked about, so that would be ways to maybe improve this area. Thank you for the comment.
I have a question. So is the AMI calculated based on only residents in the county, or does it include people who work in the county but don't live here? You
It's a
know,
good question. I don't know, Dave, do you know that?
I think it's
It's
residents,
just our residents.
but I'm not 100% sure. But
I
I think it's
know,
just
yeah,
residents.
you know, those are tables that are done by Misha, but they are based on county, so I would imagine it's just using county data and. You know, income data from the census and calculating that on a county by county basis. I mean, they vary drastically. I mean, if you go out in some of the rural communities like Tootnawaygo, it can be half what it is in Ottawa County, and that's just really a dictation of employer base, you know, and how mixed income, you know, Ottawa is, how, yeah, all kinds of stuff happening here with vacation and second homes and stuff like that. Really tilts the scales a lot. But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right?
right.
You know,
Well, if one of our goals is to find housing opportunities for people who work in Ottawa County, if the worker AMI is radically different from the county AMI,
it's a good point.
you know, we're just by virtue of where you look,
Yeah,
creates the opportunity or denies an opportunity to.
it's a good point. I mean, because those AMI tables really are not necessarily a dictation of what maybe the need is. It tells us who lives here, but it doesn't tell us who maybe be trying to live here so that they can actually work or live near their employer, which I know has been something we've been discussing. And so, I think that's just more the reason to, figure out ways to do some of the community land trust is a good way to serve low income people with home ownership. Even though it's not 100% equity, it is better than renting and it provides longer term residency for families. And does share some equity, but then keeps that affordability, you know, for future generations. Certainly something they could stay in as a family for many, many years. But it's a great tool for Ottawa County. It really is community land trust, just because you're not just helping one family, it's there as an asset and as a homeownership asset. So,
Right. And it might create a incentive for employers to participate in the down payment assistance
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and we haven't had a ton of success with that, there has been, up in Traverse City, there was a teacher housing initiative with, Traverse City Public Schools. I mean, their need up there is so severe that, you know, they were able to do that. I mean, we continue to talk about it. I mean, I was up in Fremont 5 years ago, we were talking. But unfortunately, it takes a long time to engage our employers. We have part of our fund in Allegan County, and so, what would Perigo do? It's an open question. I think often what we see is the developer is coming in, responding to an RFP. The municipality is saying, we need more housing, and this is what we think we need. I think the housing studies that Ryan does are super helpful, but, sometimes, not every community is willing to tackle this stuff, right?
Clearly.
But some are, and some are, Holland has really shown that they are all in. Obviously, not all their residents may be, but certainly there's been support for it, and we've had good success there. So, Grand Haven, I mean, the Samaritas project, I was really blown away by how background, the ribbon cutting went for that. That was a full house. So obviously that community is also really excited about having more affordable housing in their community. And, and I think certain communities just allow for it maybe a little bit better too, because we can't put it everywhere, but we do have locations along our corridors that really work well for it. And while it's still close to city and, Spring Lake one was right downtown. But that happened because of a church. So that's really where I see Ottawa County being instrumental, is in that leadership role to, try to connect some of these dots.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
And I think I don't know, Dave, maybe you could speak, but, in Holland, I think there are more opportunities for land development, where we've seen it in the past. I don't know what you're seeing.
Yeah, it depends, and I've shared this with you before. We're currently working on 3 parcels, one in the city of Holland, one in Holland Township, and one in Bentonville, all donated pieces of parcels. So I think you're having some community members and organizations, maybe as a church, that are stepping forward saying, hey, this is an issue, here's how we can address it. What we're struggling with is I'm actually trying to find like single lots, just as a village project, and I can't find them at a reasonable price that makes sense for us. So it is hidden in this.
How far south would you go in Allegan?
We go all the way to Van Buren, edge of Van Buren. We serve Van Buren, Allegan, and
Let's connect that to me. I might have a line on.
Yeah, and we have unspent dollars in Allegan too. We've had a couple of projects that surfaced, but just the timing. We said no to one, so they went on and got other financing. It was a rental project, which the nice thing about IFF is we have that long amortization rental product. So the developer works really good on the rental, which is why, rental works a little better than home ownership. But I will say Allegan County is growing so fast, and we're just trying to pay attention to what can be done. The good news is Fendo has taken leadership, Elegant's taken leadership. And so that's really where we see, and they've even issued some RFPs, Elegant's issued RFPs, we have tax credit development underway there, and so it probably wouldn't have happened without the RFP. And then, yeah, I think what Dave hit the nail on the head is those infill lots are so critical for our developers, especially like a Habitat. For incremental development to kind of keep things going, because the development projects at large scale, especially homeownership, take forever. And it takes just an enormous amount of subsidies, and infrastructure costs and carrying costs, so. IFF is willing to stand in the gap with pre-development dollars from the fund to help the developers, but. Really, that's just a loan, right? I mean, that's just borrowing money that's gonna have to be paid back at the closing, which a lot of our Habitat affiliates have the cash to do that. So that's not necessarily always helpful, but sometimes it can be. In the middle of working on one today, this week, that's a construction to the permanent tip loan for Habitat Kent County on one of their really big projects. And so there's a lot of different ways, the capital, the loan dollars, the grant dollars, the tip can all flow together. It's just good to hear from everybody where there's opportunities, and donated property is the best possible scenario. But you still gotta develop the property.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not easy to develop, it's gonna take a long time. It'd be great if we could find some infill lots. Which is very difficult. I don't know, maybe urban cities, like our downtowns, but even that, I think by the time you buy the house and tear it down, if it was.
Price point is the hard thing for us. We need to be roughly for us to keep the subsidy to be able to make it work for those under 80% AMI. We have identified lot and infrastructure around 50,000 per unit. And that's, I have realtors, realtors come to me and say, hey, here's a lot for $90,000, and that doesn't include any infrastructure. Like, that's just, it's a non-starter right now. We might have to make some changes. I know there are habitats in other parts of the country that are doing that, and we just have to take more of a loss. But yeah, those infill lots just to keep us, like you mentioned, those keep us going while we're developing the bigger project. With our three properties, it's under over 140 units. So we're working on it, but we need those infill just to keep our volunteers engaged between those bigger projects.
Are the infrastructure costs 50,000, is that based on available water, sewer and gas?
Yeah, so I'm just using kind of rough numbers, and you can go a little bit each way. The last development we did, we were in each lot for land at 6,000 per lot. And then the infrastructure was actually closer to 45 to 50,000, so we were a little over that 50,000, but that was city-owned property that they wanted to develop. The donated property we're working at right now is 0, but we've estimated infrastructure at 45,000. So we know it's going to be difficult, but if we could find an infill lot that's already right there with city water and sewer, it's a lot cheaper to make that connection than building in roads. And
So would infrastructure costs be substantially more than in a rural area where you don't have that?
potentially, I don't have a lot of experience doing it where we're doing well in septic and things like that, so I'm not super educated on that, but potentially I would have to lean on somebody who has more experience in that area.
Yeah, and a lot of our affordable housing programs really are geared toward infrastructure project. They won't even, a lot of them won't even consider, and a lot of it is qualified census tract areas where there's eligibility for those grants, and often that's not infrastructure, so I think that's gonna shift over time, especially as we do this mixed income stuff where we can get into, well, and, maybe community septic would be ideal, but that's possible. I mean, I think the numbers just don't work to go out and do well and septic by the time you buy the land. Land costs is just too expensive along the lake shore, but, the one thing we have noticed in Kent County, which, I mean, our inner city lots in some of our still communities that are still suffering from disinvestment, those lots are now 50 grand. They used to be, free. So what's happening is our nonprofits, Habitat in Kent County, they actually they moved their entire, that's the loan I'm looking at this week, they moved their entire facility to a new facility in a different location, and they're developing their old facility with housing. So that's one way to kind of get creative, and then they got a capital campaign, and they did new markets tax credits for this whole move, with the, super complicated financing, but it did provide. In that case, it's providing about 60 units of affordable home ownership. It has a high-rise condo and some duplexes, so. The churches, the existing facilities that our nonprofit community has, those are all the county, cities that have unused property. I mean, we have. Every institution has property that can be built on. It would just be a matter of whether it would work. We have done some outlots on schools in Kent County and the city of Grand Rapids where we developed outlots that were, and now the city, the public school in Grand Rapids is selling a lot of their community property. Why? Because there's nowhere else to build that the market can bear. So I think that's what I was trying to hit on with no. So last minute.
No, I think.
Yeah, it can be true.
Couple reactions, if I may, to that. You made your second note on county properties, and that is something that we're intentional on right now. We're working internally, honing in on one property that could be very viable. So hope to continue to move that along. With that summit concept that you bring up, and a few different thoughts there, kind of moving ahead to the strategic plan of this housing commission. Put a lot of thought into that document. There's a lot of good ideas. When I reread that document, it has just this, to me, this logical sense of approach on how to go about activation of tangible products. And those opportunities parcels stand up to me. We're hearing the same thing from Dave right here. So how do we identify parcels? Where do they originate? Are they locals? Are they churches? Are they somewhere else and others and developers? Kind of highlighting those parcels, and then you tactfully navigate like which ones make sense and how do you move the needle on a local by local unit basis, right, to work through their zoning. And I'm wondering, as we go to the strategic plan, if I kind of move on to that, the Board of Commissioners, they did their strategic planning last week. They identified 3 goals that were identified. And housing fits under this bigger kind of super goal of just navigating county growth with all the issues from infrastructure and land use and housing and groundwater and the like. The plan for the County Board of Commissioners goals, administration is going to be working internally to meet on the bones, if you will, and bring that forward. Our document, or the document that you all prepared, has been shared with administration. I think they can start to use that. And I'm just curious if we want to, if there's some areas that we think are important to move forward, how do we convey that to administration and your commissioners to build into the plan? And one of those that just highlights to me is that process to identify opportunity parcels. How can we effectively get in that space? I think there's something real there. And I mentioned our last meeting, Holland Township, for example, they did a study of opportunity parcels in Holland Township. They've got a GIS map. There are infill lots, there are 15-acre lots, there's other ones. Those are identified. So then you just kind of work with developers and others to kind of move along. What is there an opportunity? If we get some resources, do we collaborate with our local governments and say, we want to work with each of you and do an assessment of opportunity parcels? And it just kind of kicks off this entire action plan that you all have developed. I feel like that's kind of a square one. That could even, my last thought for reactions is, as David brought up the summit, is as this plan moves forward, is there some kind of convening of everyone to, hey, Housing Commission's got housing board, transition, has this thoughtful strategic action plan. Let's talk about it in a larger group, say what we want to do, make those connections, make it happen, get the partners, and then move it forward. I think highlighting this work publicly and pulling people in to learn about what we want to do would be a great, first step. So there's two kind of thoughts going right there. Pause.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I agree. And the opportunity parcels might see further development in adjacent properties, which could leverage into a much bigger housing creation opportunity.
Do you know how Holland did that? Did they do it internally or did they?
They hired McKenna Associates to do that study. Yeah. I've had some conversations with Ryan Kilpatrick, for example. He's done those corridor analyses that look at opportunity parcels in Kent County. That could be an approach replicated here.
Is that something that you're thinking strategic impact would have a hand in?
I think so. That could be, with the support of the housing board, say, this is a priority, with the support of the county and some other additional resources that we leverage partners, say, hey, we want to activate this. And we'll be the boots on the ground under your advisement to move that. It's just getting it all on paper and having everyone understand where we want to go. So communication with commissioners is
Yeah,
huge.
no, I think that would be very excited about that.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think that's how we can support, private market as well.
Yes, that's very important.
Well, and also making public, maybe people want to join the boards and or look to expand it. So maybe they'd be more interested in joining the housing board if they know more about what the plans are.
100%.
Well, let's move on to small footprint homes initiative update.
Yes, quick update on there. You got a printout here, the staff prepared, cumulative, summary. We've had, almost 1,800 plans downloaded in total from individuals, builders, and others. So it's great to see that discussion still happening. We continue to get calls on it. I've got a presentation and hosted by Holland Herrick Library tomorrow on small homes. I'll be up in Spring Lake Township in a few weeks to their planning commission, talking about smaller footprint homes. I presented to Holland Township. We're looking at some opportunity parcels there, and we'll continue to navigate that. Ferrisburg City recently had a meeting, a public meeting to talk about doing some zoning adjustments in smaller footprint homes. They've got, you learn a lot of things as the public starts to hear about these opportunities. And I think back kind of our basis of small footprint homes is kind of quelling the misconceptions of smaller footprint, and don't be so scared of density and property values and the like. So I think there's still big education with our local, with our residents. Townships and cities, they are interested in this work. Even Chester Township and Conklin, I've invited to go up there to planning commission meeting at the end of the month as they're looking at little downtown Conklin and thinking about density and footprint different. So there's a lot of good activation in the small footprint home space. I also had a private developer, a for-profit developer, reach out and is seriously contemplating incorporating some of our small footprint designs in a larger project that he has. So it'll be a mix of product type. I think the more opportunities we can activate in collaboration with the private sector, it's awesome. So good momentum, lots of discussions on small footprint homes. We're going to keep it activated.
Great. In the website with the people downloading and expressing interest, I don't think we have it now, but would it be possible to ask them, are you thinking of this as an ADU or parcel development or potential, just imagining what life would be like in a home like this if there was a development that included these. And maybe we could, find out like where the greatest interest is. I mean, I would think it'd be a great ADU way to go because you got everything you need. It would fit almost on any parcel.
Yeah, that 440 would be perfect. Yeah, we can assess the questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good suggestion.
Right.
Good.
Any more comments on small footprints? Moving on to new business. We've already been talking about the strategic planning session action plan, but a lot of work went into it. You guys have done a great job of pulling it all together. Joe, very much appreciate your leadership and initiatives in that regard. Question I have, when do you feel it would be appropriate to start putting some timelines into this? Is that something that kind of waiting for the county commissioners? Doug?
Well, so assuming we pass this motion, my understanding is that then it goes to us for hopefully the end of March. And we can approve the resolution, and give a broad approval to the draft. Then it comes back to us, and I think that at that point, then we can start putting some, as we add numbers to the board. We can also at the same time start putting some timelines.
Great.
So the resolution to expand
Right.
to a board, you're anticipating end of March, or would it go
I
to
haven't done
planning and
Patrick
policy?
recently, but my understanding was. Finishing that cycle, I don't think it needs to go to the end of April, but maybe it does.
Might need to
Okay,
get to planning and policy
that's true.
first. We're probably looking at April.
Yeah.
for that.
Then we push that out months, so.
Great.
And maybe if it's not timelines, maybe as we think about these
Or steps.
committees, like how do we can kind of think about who we want individually, just
So
kind of
one thought I
brainstorm
had
the right
was just
people.
gonna keep our action plan on old business and every month just look at it and just say, okay, well, can we keep fleshing it out as we go, right?
That's a good idea.
Let's focus on goal two, what can we do there and put some numbers by that and put some dates by that. Just as kind of a standing item.
Yeah, very good. I think that's great. Well, are we ready to make a motion to approve
Yeah,
the?
I'll make a motion to approve the Ottawa County Housing Commission action plan for 2026.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah, discussion, yeah.
What's that?
We need to have discussion yet.
Oh, we do? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So discussion.
Yeah, so on the vision, I may not be remembering this correctly, because I am getting older, but, on the vision where it says while valuing the use of local tax dollars, I thought we had a partnership between private and public, or private and,
So, at the beginning, we included the fostering collaboration, a collaborative cross-sector ecosystem was how we had, and so we talked both about the like what tax dollars and then about the like public-private sector. And so I considered the, like, I don't know, kind of to include both of those ideas about in the later half, focusing on it being like local tax dollars is our kind of like primary consideration. But then, yeah, dropping in cross-sector to make it clear that we're trying to work with everybody.
yeah, it's to the layman, that probably won't make a whole lot of sense. So, it's going, just how that's written is going to look like it's just using valuing tax dollars
Mhm.
instead of engaging the private sector. So that would be my only concern with that one. And then I'm sure this will be in the bylaws, but for, 1A3 or 1AI3, is terms for existing housing commissions. Resetting terms or how that's going to look, I know we had discussed that. And then, the MOU with the Grand Rapids Housing Commission, now that we're not going to be a statutory organization, are they just going to, I mean, they're pretty much doing majority, well, if not all of the statutory requirements for the Housing Commission anyways. Um. Are they going to just have pretty much a blank opportunity to do whatever they want, or how that's gonna look like?
Yeah.
Would be my concerns about those, so.
Yeah, so I think to the latter comment with Grand Rapids Housing Commission, I think it'd be prudent as we still have that MOU in place with them and it kind of lays expectations and responsibilities and communication protocols. I think it would behoove us as we transition to an advisory board to reset that MOU with those same agreements. And my conversations with Lindsay Reams and Grand Rapids, they'd be amenable to that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're
Communication.
not
Yep.
completely walking away from any of the conversations or control we have locally here in Ottawa County.
Yes.
That-
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I think they're very important because of their programming and administrative opportunities. And then we have the relationships locally that they need. I think they recognize that we need to have those partnerships.
Would they then work with our subcommittees or the advisory board and? run
They
things
would
by us,
probably
or-
direct to the advisory board. Yes, and with subcommittees as needed, depending on what the appointment would be.
So the advisory board would approve those actions, their actions in Ottawa County.
Well, the MOU would really be the catalyst for all that. There would just be more of a reporting, I think.
Yes, then we wouldn't have the ability to formally tell them what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that we're in advisory, but as a statutory, then we'd have a little bit more control per se over that process. That's why I brought that up. It's just more of a concern of mine, but
No, it's very valid. I think that's important to button that MOU down. You had mentioned the terms. AI3 for existing housing commissioners. Yeah, I
So
think
we
that's
can,
very valid.
rewrite that, Jared, I
Yeah.
mean, it's basically you and Ken that need to have some sort of adjustment done. I mean, the word for me reappointed means that we lock in those things, I mean, we
Right.
can make that more clear, but when
Yeah.
I say, when it says reappointed, I'm just saying we're locking in what we
Okay.
have, and if we have to make
Yep.
adjustments.
I
that's
didn't
part
know
of-
if it had
that's
to
part
be
of-
spelled out for that section or not.
We can, but I think for me, reappointed means that we're reappointing and refixing the
Yeah.
blanks, so.
Okay.
Would we have, or would this commission have the ability to look at the resolution that's drafted to transition to a board and then you can see that written in black and white?
My feeling is, once we approve this, it goes to the board, our hands are essentially tied if. You know, if we can't really.
Well, kind of the
do or
opposite,
change it.
kind of the opposite, Jared, because the board will just sign off on the draft.
Okay,
Because, and that comes back to us to do it, the actual work, right?
okay,
We're just letting them see what we would like.
so they're not finalizing, they're just. signing
No,
off
they're
on
just
the draft
saying,
for
I mean, the
us to finalize.
resolution lets us do what we want to do.
Okay,
And we're just saying, hey, here's a copy of the draft bylaws that we would like to basically pass.
I see,
So once you pass the resolution, then we can have the bylaws, or we'll fix it, bylaws what we want to, and from reactions I've gotten from
Yep.
everybody's cool with,
perfect,
you know.
Yeah.
So they're not prescribing anything as far as bylaws, they're just saying that looks good.
okay, that's what I wanted, just clarification.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the resolution just enables us to do that.
Yes. Alright, and so we would, again, we have a
And I
chance to
think
look at that draft
In the
resolution.
resolution, right? We-
I haven't
We did
seen
that.
a resolution. I've had bylaws. We've had draft bylaws. I haven't seen a
That
resolution.
was in that packet 2 months ago. That you guys passed out. Maybe not. I thought so.
And then back to that vision, I don't know if there's a way we can. Use the literal words of private, public, partnership,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
that way it's extremely clear for all
How
parties.
would you like to fix that, Jared?
Fostering a collaborative, partnership between public and private. That, provides a wide range of needed housing options.
If you wanna make the motion, I'll second that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Let's hear it.
Catch that, I kind of spewed that all out. I don't know
So
if I can
you're
do it.
saying fostering a collaborative, public and private.
Sector ecosystem. while providing a wide range of needed housing options and at that. and leave it at
Or-
that.
Fostering collaborative, cross-sector ecosystem that provides a wide range of needed housing options. Valuing private and public partnership.
So eliminate the use of local tax dollars from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
Good, I got it, thank you.
want to read the rewrite on that?
Yeah, so fostering a collaborative cross-sector ecosystem that provides a wide range of needed housing options while valuing public and private partnership.
Love it. Is there a second on that?
Yeah. that
Oh,
sounds-
yeah.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Any further discussion on the,
Okay, so that was the amendment to the vision. Now do we have to go back to the original motion for the action? Okay.
right,
no, I think vote on that.
okay, good, motion to, approve the, reinvention of the, Housing Commission to Housing Advisory Board proposal.
We have the motion in support already, I
Yeah,
believe.
vote on
We just need to vote.
All in favor?
I, is that, should we do a roll call on that just to make sure?
Yeah,
Just because we're literally changing the entire structure of the organization. Or,
Right, making that change.
probably a
Yep.
thought.
I'm just gonna go right to last.
Okay.
Jared,
Yes.
Lent,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
and Doug.
Yes.
Draft bylaws for advisory housing board. We have proposed bylaws at this point.
Well, you have what I sent you.
That you had revised based on feedback.
Right,
Yes.
and like I said, you can call the revised.
Here is the revised version. Doug sent these near the end of January.
Again, this is not the final bite on this. This is just like, this is Board of Commissioners, this is what we're looking to do. And they see that they're broadly in agreement with this. We tax them and then they, my understanding, would finally approve bylaws once we've approved ours, which would be late spring.
Yes.
That sound about. This is just, this looks good. This, it's our general direction. Let the commissioners know this is the general direction we want to go. Do you guys like it? Cool. And then we'll finalize this. We may just finally gotta put some dates in there, but. And this will give you an extra 2 months to sit on this and just say, okay. This line here, that line there. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, and some of the adjustments were made from the original version that you shared, Doug, so this. Draft number 2 brings down to 11 voting members, brings up other sectors of representation. It does speak to existing housing commission members being reappointed and adjusting to 3-year terms. It also speaks to the ability of the Housing Advisory Board to establish special committees. And you would have the authority to appoint members to those committees independently as well, or the chair can do that. I think some of those immediate questions and requests for adjustment were put into this draft. So as Doug said, it could take a few more weeks here and just think about it before it moves forward, but I like the direction that they're going.
Yeah, I do too.
This is probably in the weeds a little bit, but whoever's holding current office should be holding current office in the next. When we change to advisory, correct?
How do you mean? Oh, yeah, officers, for sure.
Okay, that's, I don't know if that's explicitly written, but I feel like
I
that.
don't think it is, but
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think the word reappointment is doing a lot of work, maybe it's doing too much work, but. I think the assumption is that everything is status quo.
I just know if it's not in writing, it doesn't.
Yeah, no worries.
Speaking from experience.
We'll note that, so we can keep a master draft in our office and like suggestions like that, we'll build it into another draft in the comment. There's other questions on these bylaws, if it works for you, Doug. Share it with us.
Yeah,
We'll do that.
yeah, if we can just spell out something, again, the intention is to be status quo as possible and. Not doing.
One quick question on the committees. Those will all be deemed public meetings as well, so the public would be able to attend. Is that good?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
good.
yep, we can do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Clint, just help me out. You're Clint RM, right?
Yeah.
So let me just send the resolution that I think that. You know, the board will take a look at. If you got any problems, let me know.
We're not voting to approve this rate currently, right?
No.
Okay, this is just for information.
Just for information. Yeah, we'll wait until after the board does do the resolution into the transition, then we'll formalize our bylaws.
Onward.
Any further questions or discussion on the bylaws? Moving on to public comments. Anyone have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I'll share just kind of, based on my conversation, just want to give you guys some insight. I know, like Dave was mentioning, that oftentimes, the different developers, it's very difficult to serve under 80% AMI. We totally understand it, and that's one of the things that Habitat can bring to the table is serving that. So I just want to give you a little insight. As it came up, Pat, you were kind of asking too about the people that work in the county. And so I was just doing this for another project the other day. I had my notes as far as our last like 20 some homes, the occupations people had within the county. And so these are just some of the corporations that people came from: Gentex, the county core, Magna Mears, D&W, Premier Plastics, CVS Pharmacy, Miller Knoll, Hayworth, West Foods, Western Seminary, Trinity Health, County Health Department, Heinz, Meyer, Morrisett, Metro Automotive. That's just kind of showing when you talk about like workforce housing, people that work in our community, that's who we're focusing on. And the families we serve live in the county. That's one of the requirements. They're not, I live in Grand Rapids, I want to move to. One of the other things I just wanted to share too, that the county's been helping us with as we try to dive into the weeds a little bit more about the specific needs in our developments, is we're currently doing, hope to have this finalized in this month. We're partnering with other organizations that serve that population. So think Community Action House, Good Samaritan Ministries, Love Your Neighbor, people that have work skills programs, to actually survey their participants to really hone in and dial in on what is their actual need. So that when we're planning these developments, we're not just saying, hey, it'd be great to have a bunch of 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes. No, what is the actual need? And hey, if we identify 20% of the people survey need 1 bedroom, let's build more 1 bedroom and things like that. And so Joe and Paul and their team actually helped review that survey. So I appreciate that. And that's information I told Paul will make available to the county as we move forward. And I also just want to share, I know Paul and I meet pretty regularly. If there's ever any data that would be helpful for us, even when you think about cost and how much, if we're serving someone that's between 30 and 60%, how much are we actually subsidizing? And we basically lose in every house. The lower we go AMI, just the more we lose. There's some unique situations where that doesn't happen, but I'd be happy to share any of that information with you guys. But kind of speaking to what Paul was sharing about the small footprint homes. One of the developments we're working on that's over 100+ homes. We've actually used the footprints of the small footprint homes as placeholders in that right now. Not saying we're going to do that, but we've talked about what if we did within this 100-unit development, like a cottage court that was 6 or 8 1-bedroom small footprint homes. You kind of create a community within a larger community. So we're trying to think strategically as it comes to those things as well. So just wanted to share a little bit of insights and no kind of place in the conversation.
And Dave or David, just a question that I should have asked this earlier, the down payment assistance that public is offered, that is for their teachers,
That's for teachers.
but not for every employee, teachers.
It's not, it's just teachers.
Okay, and that is that a geographic limitation on that, or?
Yeah, there's, and I don't know the specifics, this is just from conversations I've had. There is some requirements that if a teacher does get that down payment assistance, or it's a grant, it's $25,000 grant. They have to stay within the district for a certain number of
Okay, so
years.
inside the district geographically.
And then there's a certain mile range within the district they have to stay at that mile.
Oh, okay, so you can be out.
I don't know for sure. I know there's a mile range. I don't know if
Okay,
it's.
so it's not strictly
specific.
district, but there's some sort of geographical boundary.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I know Jubilee, they're working with, they just got several teachers that are pursuing some of their units, and actually we're working on some conversation about our development, and Jubilee's looking at, can they actually set aside X number of units
Oh,
for
wow.
teachers through that
So
program?
how long has that been going on?
3-4 years at least.
And how many teachers have they been putting in?
Sure.
10, 20 or 100 or?
I think it's lower than that.
Okay,
It's probably only a handful, to be honest.
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought there was a limit per year, like a lower limit.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so,
And, you know, like,
Right.
don't quote me, but like, I'm pretty sure it's a lower number that they have available each year.
all right, thank you, I appreciate that.
Kind of curious, is there an opportunity or a need for more of an inventory, if you will, on down payment assistance programs? I know
That'd
credit
be really
unions,
interesting to see, it's
banks,
a really interesting concept.
they do that. But do we have a good handle on it? Is
I
there
I
value?
remember in ARPA discussion, a lot of folks were talking to me about, could that be part of ARPA, obviously it didn't end up being part of that, but I'm glad that Holland Public has kind of picked that up, right?
I mean, if they're not being utilized, people aren't aware of
Well,
these opportunities, is
I
that
think a
something
lot
to
of-
highlight?
I think a lot of people are aware of them, it's just the supply is just not available. Like, there's just not a whole lot of supply for them to utilize all these programs.
To make it
Right.
worth it, yeah.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, where they're gonna wanna be able to utilize these if they're up against a bunch of other offers,
Yeah,
because they will be if it's in a quote unquote affordable house, because that's the highest demand right now. Unfortunately, they don't always get their offer accepted. So it doesn't get utilized as often as it could if we had more supply.
be interesting if that's another data point that you convey to local units of government. Say, there are these entities that are offering support for workforce and residents, but your zoning doesn't allow that product type to become available.
Like, we keep coming back to the same systemic issue, is the lack of supply for first-time home buyers. So,
Just one unique thing in municipality, the city of Holland actually used their CDBG money for down payment assistance specifically for Habitat. Their CDBG funding is decreasing, so they're moving away from that, but our last probably 15 homeowners got an additional $65 to $100 in DPA from the city of Holland, which we also get 15,000 for Vista per homeowner. A lot of the down payment assistance that we access, like through Federal Home Loan Bank, Envision and things, sometimes that money just goes real quick, because you're competing in a sector like we're doing. It's different from what you're talking about.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it goes really quick. You gotta have their Federal Home Loan Bank has had some great down payment assistance, where if you're a first time home buyer and a minority, well, we have to have a homeowner lining up to close that next month in order to achieve that. If it's
Right.
2 months down the road, we're already too late
Yeah.
to the table.
Do you have a program, Dave, about rehabbing homes that are in need of rehab?
We currently have about $1.5 million grant from the state to do critical home repair.
Okay,
So it's not full rehab, because we're only allowed about 40,000.
so essentially just cosmetic.
Yeah, we get into some big things as well. We were doing a lot of roofs. That's
Okay.
the number one thing that we're doing.
Is that for existing homeowners or maybe one that's on the market that you guys can
For
buy?
existing homeowners,
Okay.
yeah. We have done home rehabs in the past, actually kind of 2008, during the downturn.
Yeah,
We would buy homes, fix them up and put Habitat homeowners in them.
gotcha.
Right now within our area, for us to buy a home.
Right.
And fix it up would cost us probably $100,000 more than building a home based on our numbers.
That makes sense.
So
Yep.
if we can get the home without bidding more.
Right, maybe one that's off market.
Yeah, that's, could be true.
Do you do any work with condemned properties or has that been?
I will say kind of going back to what Paul was saying about the need for, somebody really just kind of look at available lots, like that's a big need we have. So I have someone on staff that just moved here from North Carolina that are trying to build up to do that. They're managing a repair program. We probably get 1 to 2 calls every week with somebody who has an idea of property. And so just trying to even pursue those, follow up, is this, we have 3 projects moving forward now, but I probably got about 5 to 8 that are potentials. And some of those are municipalities saying, hey, we have this old building that isn't needed anymore. If we tore that down, we think we could build some housing there. Would you be interested? So we're open to a lot of conversations. I mean, the old, where we're building right now, Ottawa Townhomes with Jubilee, that is the old Hound Pitch headquarters that developer bought. They built what I call high-end storage units on part of it, and then we're building housing on the other part. So a lot of creative options.
Any other public comments?
Thank you. This was really interesting. I really liked it.
Thanks for being here.
Good, yeah, thanks for being here. Moving on, other business, next meeting, April 16.
You've got some things, huh, Pam?
Yeah, Jubilee Ministries just finished Ottawa Townhomes project and they
Okay.
invited us to come for a tour. So I'll
16?
March 27th, Friday. So I'll send out the details following this meeting. Doug, you'll actually get it from me twice because we're gonna invite the board commissioners too.
Okay.
It's a special invite by Steve and Jubilee for a tour.
Cool. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Next meeting, April 16. I might have a conflict, my daughter's birthday. And my other kids are gonna get together for that, and she lives in the Chicago area. It may not be exactly on the 16th, I think it's probably gonna be the weekend, but if I end up having to go to that, I'll be here for that meeting.
That's not-
Not asking for anybody to reschedule or anything,
Thanks for that. Birthdays are to be celebrated.
yes. All right, any further comments, discussion? Have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.